Good to go? Got everybody here? Well, first of all, Happy New Year, everybody. Call this meeting to order. First meeting of 2023. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Tiki, Jennifer Finley, here, Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt,
Here.
Ellie Bundy, present, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dawson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Thanks, Jennifer. So we'll start us out with prayer. Terry, could you lead us in a prayer this morning?
Creator, we thank you for this beautiful building and these wonderful members that work for this tribe. We give thanks for the council, and we are thankful for their attendance and their sincerity. We ask that we be worthy to receive guidance, to make the right decisions, the best decisions. And we ask in this new year that we'll be comforting our membership through many different ways. We ask that our children will be safe going to school, and our parents will be watched over. And we ask a special blessing those that are suffering, but we also want to acknowledge those that are in a good space, that they will share their goodness and their spirit in a good way. We ask that we move forward this day in a good way, and say these in the Creator's name. Amen.
Thanks, Terry. All right, we have our minutes from December 29th for council's consideration. Motion by Len to approve the December 29th tribal council minutes with any corrections. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Let's see, 8-4, 2 abstentions, Jimmy and Carol. All right, we have our agenda here. A couple of things for housekeeping. We need to review the quarterly meeting agenda. I crafted an incentive paper with my wife this weekend, and I handed that out to y'all just for a topic of discussion if you think it's worthy or not. But I promised Teresa I'd bring it in and show you guys. So she was the main thinker on it. Yeah. Anyway, any other items from the agenda? Carol?
Yeah, did everybody see the thing that George Waters sent?
Yeah. Did everybody see George Waters' note?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about.
Maynard? Not sure if it's real or not, but I could certainly contact him.
Yeah.
Follow up.
Legit, yeah.
I'll do that. Okay, so we'll talk about George's offer. Any other items? Any walk-ins? Okay.
Good way to start the year.
Well, let's start with the quarterly agenda real quick.
Jordan was gonna bring that up during his time.
Okay, that's fine. Just, yeah, so the only issue was the presentation on the, energy keepers and Mission Valley Power. So, there's other issues going on in Mission Valley Power. So it may not be the good thing to have, them at this point in time come in on a presentation on quarterly.
The issue.
Well, we'd have to go into executive session, but yeah.
Okay.
You want to go into executive session?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go into executive. Executive. Thank you, Jim. Okay. Who's up first?
Renee Joachim's resolution regarding the COVID leave first. If we have 3 minutes till the agenda starts.
Well, let's see if they have any information on money. Come on up. Happy New Year, Lisa, Renee. We wanted to take up the COVID leave thing again. Did you find any money to pay for it?
Greg Spar confirmed that there's ARPA funds available if you wanted to do the 40 or the 80.
Okay, for the entire year? Wow. We're not spending it all here on the 20th?
He had mentioned we'd spent about $500,000. And so if you wanted to continue with COVID leave and also do COVID leave share, there would be funds available.
It puts it in a little bit different light, but I still like to get people back to work though. I mean, I have a hard time with people using it. Anyway, go ahead, Jennifer.
Is there a way we could do COVID leave only for people who are vaccinated? Is that possible, legally possible?
Probably not.
You think that would be too? Okay. Is it, okay.
I don't even think they've been able to require that at the healthcare workers, do they? You know? No nurses that don't get shots. Martin?
It's not a requirement in tribal health.
Have you consulted with tribal health about this? I think that when we did this initially, they were hand in hand and, it feels like we kind of forgot about our healthcare input and it's part of our reality now. It's like the flu. We don't have flu leave. People die, more people die from the flu than die from COVID. So and I'm the COVID guy, right? Mask up, wash your hands, get vaccinated. But I think we're at the point now where it's like the people that get it that aren't prepared, maybe they should be. Maybe, we have, Mr. Chair said we have and I agree, we have one of the best benefit packages out there. And getting, 8 to 12 hours of paycheck, that adds up pretty quickly, unless you're burning it all the time. So I feel like leave share, let's boost that up. Let's add some hours to that or days to that and deal with it that way. Because the other thing about this COVID leave is if we're not going to include our health experts on this, they're actually the ones that still have to do a note, to my understanding, which is a burden on them. And I mean, COVID's not over, but like I said, it's a way of our life now. It's here to stay. And these new variants will come and go, and like the flu, they'll adjust to it every year and have a new booster, and that's where we're at. So as bad as that is, I don't think I'm going to support this.
So under the leave share, if someone was actually on COVID and they were needing leave share, that could be funded out of the ARPA funding. That could be taken care of through ARPA.
I'm assuming it could. We would just have to be able to figure out how to do the finance side of it. Because right now it's covered under other funding, the program funding.
I don't know.
Could we, could you guys rally with Greg and Tribal Health and come back at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And I want a strong recommendation one way or the other from Tribal Health. Because if it's not, you know, I mean, that's the other thing is like, our numbers, according to Patty last week, are back to whatever our infection rate is lower. Yeah, that's because people aren't testing, but I think the flu is worse this year than anything.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at the resolution, it talks about it being necessary to modify the policy, talks about it be implemented by memo, but it doesn't say what modification would be done. And so I don't know even how to consider this resolution. I'd need to know what the possible implemented new changes to the policy would be, and it's not listed here. And so I'd like to know more about what that modification would be before I'd pass this.
Right, what was done in the past is we just came to council and they basically had told us, yep, we're gonna continue with the 80 hours, and then the last time we implemented the leave share. So we brought forth, I believe it was 3 different options for the council to consider, and that was the option they chose. We can come back again with recommendations.
Can you come back at the end of the day?
Yeah.
With, after you confirm with Tribal Health also? But yeah, I'm like Martin. I just don't, there are more people dying of pneumonia than there are of COVID-19 related illnesses today. So everything seems to be back to normal. And I just think it's easier to manage as a regular benefit. And I really, really do enjoy the benefits of leave share. I think that's been very valuable and really helped some people in need. I really support that. Carol?
I don't think I can support it either, tell you the truth, but I think it's a new year and Mike is requesting the rest of the information that should be presented at this time. So, and definitely I appreciate Martin remembering that, yes, health always needs to be consulted on a health issue. So, appreciate that.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the council. Yeah, these are all good comments, and I strongly support it. I still, you know, COVID ain't going away; it's here, and it's going to be affecting all of our employees. And I keep thinking about these employees that have kids, that get it, and they have to deal with that, and so on. So I would just. But I totally agree with Martin. I think we should consult with Tribal Health first before we move forward. But I strongly support this.
Come back at the end of the day with more details.
Sure.
Go ahead, Len.
And one last thing that, you know, should be part of this is for those situations like that, where if you have children in the house that all get sick, you know, you're probably, you could be looking at, say you got 3 kids, you know, 5 days apiece. But we also directed, you know, back when we were doing this, for departments to work with their employees to make accommodations, either to work from home or to do staggered schedules or whatever. And so just to throw hours at something isn't, you know, that's, you know, just because we did something a year ago, you know, things change. And that's where we get like, we're stagnant. We just like, oh, we did the same. And I looked at the resolution, it's the same thing as we did last year. And things have changed drastically since last year. So, you know, just because we did it once, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, I don't think that, you know, let's be creative here. You know, let's actually like think outside the box. Let's, thank you.
All right, end of the day, please come back. We need to take action on it if we're gonna do it. So, thank you. And hopefully next week we'll see you back with pay scale discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you. Ruth. Happy New Year. I'm sure you did well.
Good morning, Council, Mr. Chairman. Page 2 of your packet, presenting modification 6 to your fiscal year 23 total budget. We're including a large amount of dollars awarded under self-governance for dams work, principally some work on Jocko K Canal for your edification, small award for forestry, and other awards in health and human services. On the page 4, total change increase $5,892,369, and a new revised total of $268,620,110.
Martin,
Motion to approve modification 6 to the fiscal year 2023 budget. Thank you.
motion by Martin to approve modification 6. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, Ruth, you know, I was going over this and then, I was also looking at a policy you sent out back in August. I think it was a policy and some of the blanks weren't filled in with figures. I can find out what it is, what that document was. But I guess my question is, our budget has increased to 35 million in governmental services. If you total all those up, somewhere around there. So what's all included in that? Is that, what, no, I'm not gonna ask you that question. So is it DHRD, those elder services, or law enforcement?
No. If you look down, just looking at that, we'll take the mandatory. In the permanent, the government services is the elders benefit payment. So we separate the type of appropriation by the permanent, the mandatory, and the discretionary. The permanent ones you adopted when you did the 23 budget at our recommendation to make those types of allocations every single year. The only thing that changes is whether you change that amount. So in government services, that's a single item in there under the permanent, and that's the elders benefit. Okay, and mandatory government services, that's going to be anything in tribal fund. The big part of that is our facilities project. That alone is just under $10 million. And then there will be some contracting grant programs, like the relief payment. So when we do that this month, when I then come in for the next time we modify, you're going to see a large increase of at least 16 million in that alone, because that's what it takes to do the payment. So as we do activities under the current awards and allocations, you'll see those amounts change.
Okay, I appreciate that, Ruth, because when I seen that, I'm like, oh my God, we're out of control in governmental services and raises. And
Yeah.
so I thought, no, okay, but that explains it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, in response further to the question, the budget as we progress, it looks like we're, quite a bit in there, but because we've changed the way you see now total allocations, you're seeing not only the tribal self-governance, but also contract and grant. And so that gives you kind of your complete picture, and we'll approach 300 million again, I would expect by the end of this fiscal year, which is what occurred last year and the year before. So as we start spending down those one-time dollars under CARES and ARPA, and then even now, infrastructure, you know, we'll eventually start seeing it level off and not, you know, climb in such a steep degree as we had been. The tribal side especially, because we've had additional revenues coming in through your dividends from the corporations, revenue sharing and any other general fund, you've spent those accordingly or allocated them to spend. So, to me, glad you asked this question actually, we'll be starting 2024 here in a couple of weeks. We do that by asking programs to estimate the revenues coming in for the next fiscal year. We're trying to get as far ahead as possible because it is such a large scope of what you are doing and allocating to spend in both tribal and federally awarded and other awarded types of activities. So just trying to keep that in kind of the largest high level picture for you. Categorizing these appropriations by the type of major expense function is really the best way we can do it for you, instead of showing you 400 or so program amounts that all will roll up to those same totals. In all of the detail though that I keep, of course, at any time you want to know particular program, just let me know, tell you what it is, tell you if their spending is high, low, good, bad.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask for a follow-up.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's called the Recommendations for FY23 Non-Tribal Appropriated Programs. Is the document that you sent out, and then in that, there was a couple of XXX without figures.
And the
maybe-
non-appropriated?
And maybe I should be able to identify what those figures are, but I don't, I can't. I'll go down and it says right there,
Mm-hmm.
it says XXX.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was your document, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
In the non-appropriated, those are the non-governmental programs, but they're chartered under the tribe. Those will be Tribal Credit, Quicksilver, the Gray Wolf Mobile Park, and the Early Childhood Daycare. So what they do is they generate receipts for which that they run on. So you're not appropriating any tribal dollars to that, but you are allowing them to spend according to their projected revenues.
So their money doesn't go into the general fund, it stays with it.
Correct. It's a
Wow.
total separate situation.
Okay, and then she just mentioned the park, the Koryokin Park.
Gray Wolf Mobile Park,
With
yes.
that individual that's trying to get that house up in Evero, I think we need to revisit that on who's living in that location. Remember Jason Adams came in with his daughter looking for places to live in Evero, and we've got non-members living in that, fully in that trailer park, and I think it's time to revisit for our own members if we can.
And that I understand is managed by economic development, and they contract for management of that. But it is self-sustaining. They've actually generated income ever since they began that.
I guess my point is more tribal members than non-members, and I know it's hard to, you know, tell anybody it's time for you to go, but you've got people in need that probably are going to school and need a place to live, can't afford a Missoula, but they could probably afford a trailer in Evero. So that's why.
We can take it up with them, Carol. I'm sure those are probably termed leases for residents there. All right, thank you, Ruth. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor? Ding, are you voting? Okay, unanimous. Thanks, Ruth. Okay, Marie. Michelle. Oh, come on up, Michelle. Come on. I know, trying to be shy in the new year, huh? You're in the room, you can't escape us. Yes, quick. Could use a mic.
There we go. I come today asking permission to apply for the Montana History Foundation grant for Three Chiefs Culture Center to purchase equipment that will go into the long-term storage units that we have out at Kicking Horse Job Corps that are being renovated. at the moment. Once the renovation is complete, we will start moving items back from the Historical Society's warehouse in Helena so that we can have our collections all back in one place again. This grant is for $7,405.59. It will allow us to purchase shelving, archival, sharing, and our storage, and then also archival equipment that will help us to store the items properly and safely.
Terry? Motion by Terry to approve the Montana History Foundation grant. Second by Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Go ahead, Carol.
I was wondering if we could make sure we invite the historical people to the reception. Is that appropriate?
Sure.
Maybe Jordan Thompson, got that?
Definitely. They're right there in town, so.
Yeah.
What reception?
Oh, it's the Capitol, the legislative reception we have later this month.
Gotcha. Okay.
We should be invited. Yeah. We'd like to.
All right.
Yeah.
Looks like
All
it
right,
was
thank you.
unanimous.
Awesome. Lem.
Happy New Year. Cheney. There's Squirks. Moving a little slow this morning. I don't know. A little tired, I bet. I got the flu bug and I didn't make it down.
وهسكوك بسيا لما تقول وليسكوك تقول لسيا كخويت سوتل ككورن سوتن تل سكوكوت تل كمي خلك وشنال خلك سن كسكالي خلك لسيا كخويت سوتل كاسكودلي يبن كاسكودلي خلك نوا وشتنو نقول كأسلامتي كولاسيا كويت تلك والجموسشن تلك بيبقوت. We just give, I want to just give thanks, this new year. I appreciate all the work that Kachuupan, our council, our leaders do for us. I was sitting there thinking about some words from some different elders. And Tony always told me that, I work at the culture committee, and anytime I come here that it's not just business, that we're a tribe, and to always share with you guys different things, that it's not a focus just on these papers. And so I just want to give thanks for this new year. And I was thinking about a elder, he's passed, Joe Pablo. And I remember one time I went to his medicine dance quite a few years, and it's this good feeling. And we went to go get sweatwood one time, and we were talking, and I said, you'd think everybody would be at the medicine dance, but it's kind of small, I mean, there's a good number of people, and there's different ones that go on. I said, man, I was young, and you just think everybody should be there. It's such a good feeling. This is who we are. And he said, but we're humans. He said, that's where you're supposed to be. He said, but we're a tribe, and that's the difference between us and that outside world. That's how we support each other. And so I was sitting here looking at our council, thinking about that I don't know your walks of everybody, your trails, or how you walk in this world, but you're supporting the work we're doing in one way or another, in different ways. So we just give thanks for that. And we had a good couple nights of jump, and traditionally we would start our jumps around the solstice, winter solstice, and we'd come together and we'd celebrate. The jump dance was a time of celebration and prayer. Not like modern celebrations where, even though we're celebrating, it's still a time of prayer and showing respect and praying for the new year and giving thanks for the trails of the past year. And that'd last about 4 days sometimes. And then after that, it would quiet down. And our medicine men would get ready and they'd go into the medicine dances. And that was a time of healing and our Blue Jays and different things that took place at that time. So important time of year. So I just give thanks to the work you all are doing and really look forward to this upcoming year, 2023. So Lemlumch. I also want to apologize for when the orientation took place. What happened was, first I was asked to give a keynote speech in Billings about our language program, and then the orientation date came in. So Stevie, he took that and he gave that talk in Billings on that same day. So that's why he was gone. And I stayed back to be with you guys and then I got sick. So I apologize. But I heard the apprentices and everybody did really good and it was a good presentation. So
It was really good.
awesome. So why I'm here is to ask to be approved to put in for the 2023 MILP grant, Montana Indian Language Program grant. And do you guys have that?
Yeah, we do. Okay.
And so that's the resolution, and then the grant, do you want me to go through it and visit about the different things we put in for?
Sure.
So this grant has been going for quite a few years, and in the write-up, I talk about how this money, money in general and just little pieces here and there is not going to save our language, but every little thing does help. And when I go out and talk about our program, I always talk about how our tribe is really invested in bringing back our language, because I see a lot of tribes a lot of programs that don't get any money from their tribe or just a little bit. So we're pretty blessed here to be able to get the money we do. But the money we get from you really goes towards the biggest piece is our adult language program, which is one of the #1 goals that we see as part of bringing back our languages is teaching it. But it's not enough to always do some little things. So this little grants like this or little pieces of pockets of money allow us to do some different things that are fun maybe, or not part of that original goal. And so in this one, the first thing we're going to do is we've been doing a lot of place name signs and you've seen all those. Thompson's worked really hard. Our elders have worked really hard to get those signs up all over Aboriginal territory. And this one, we're going to just develop one that we're looking at working with NRD, putting up a bilingual place name sign at the entrance of the South Fork primitive area. Right now, just in my mind, I knew I wanted the name of that area in a bilingual sign, but potentially we could put a little history in there. We haven't really brainstormed what that sign would look like, but when that process comes, I'm sure might get bigger than I was thinking. Hopefully not too big of a project, but the next one will be we're going to be doing 3 Salish language games. We're going to do 2 kind of like flashcard games. They're similar to Go Fish, and they're going to cover ones that, because we've done quite a few of these games already, and I don't know if you've seen them all. They were in that brochure we gave out. But this one's going to be on fish, so all the names of all the fish, and the other one will be a cooking game, so words that go along with cooking. And then we're going to also do a board game. So this is something we've been talking about for quite a few years, an actual board game. And we just kind of are in the brainstorming stage.
and we've been talking about this, and then this grant's gonna really help us kind of bring it alive with an artist and producing it, actually making the boards and.
So Cheney, that reminded me of something.
Yep.
So, the go fish thing, I'm gonna love that because my grandkids just love to play go fish anyway, but you put that in perspective of they have names for the fish and whatever it might be is fantastic. But, you know, commerce was done differently, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but you can customize a Monopoly game. However you want
Legally,
to. Huh?
legally, you mean?
Yeah, we actually send them information and they make it for you. And then it's your own game, but it's Monopoly. It's they do it all the time. They do a Montana one. You could do a Flathead Lake Monopoly. You could do whatever, but it could be a Salish Monopoly game. And I think that would be pretty cool. And then you're inserting all kinds of stuff in it. I mean, then it goes deeper in the game itself.
Well, when in the talks of this board game, we talked about Monopoly, and we talked about how Monopoly kind of, to a certain degree, goes against kind of those traditional values.
Yeah.
So we thought in this game, we were kind of thinking about the game Monopoly, and this one might be in a similar fashion where you might be a seasonal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have to change the whole
Yeah.
thing, but you know.
But that would be neat to see a game with
Yeah.
our language on it, a Monopoly game, and
yeah.
our kind of pieces that fit our culture. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah, you have to frame it, you know, back to something different. You know? It's not that capitalism kind of thing.
Exactly. So we're gonna do those 3 games. We're gonna do two new posters. We've done quite a few posters. We're gonna do another inspirational poster. Just in our initial brainstorm, we kind of were thinking about some quotes from Tony, but nothing's finalized on those. And then we're gonna do descriptions. It comes out of our curriculum. We're kind of making posters that go along with all of our different lesson plans, and so we have quite a few posters out. I think 6 posters that go right along with our curriculum. So quite a few years ago, Inclusum developed a program with Native Teaching Aids. They're out of St. Ignatius. They're a business that's kind of worked with us pretty close on developing quite a few different things. And they put up a website that's called Kids Corner. And there's quite a few different kids games on there. It's really neat. And we're just gonna add 3 new preschool level games to that program. And just keep it going and make it look, or just add some good things to it. We're gonna put some money in this to print past materials, things that we've done in the MILP that last time we built, but didn't put a lot of money to print it. So this time we'll put some money to print some of the successful things that we've done, but haven't got out to the schools yet. We put some money to help fund the 2023 Celebrating Salish Conference. We do have money in our budget set aside, but we have pretty good crew this year. Apprentices that we'd like to see go to the Celebrating Salish Conference. And so we put enough money to cover all the teachers and apprentices registration. Culture Committee will still have to, with the money we set aside for the conference, pay for their lodging. And the last thing is we put in there to always showcase the work at the end of the year and with our elders at our language camp and the final presentation to council. And the last thing I do want to share is in the budget at the end. When this grant was initially, the bill was passed by Senator Winnie Boy. They asked that all the people that were working on it asked that it would be a 5% indirect cost. And because it's not a lot of money, and even since then, they've lowered the amount of money we get. And so it's even less money than when it was initially passed. And so we just want to make sure that that's still okay, bring it aware to council, and then that it's also in the motion so that grants and contracts and grants sees that and don't give us a hard time. No, I'm just kidding. But
We want our tax.
yeah, and then we understand how that it really does help the tribe and it's important, but
No, there's other funding sources that have this type of requirement, so
Yeah.
not unique.
And so that's the grant.
Cool. Martin?
I'd make the motion to approve the application. And are you gonna take out the 5% before you submit?
No, that would be within the grant, so 5% of the grant will go to the indirect cost
So,
when we get it, when we get the money.
so they'll come in and waive that, or ask to waive that? Or you could,
To waive, you mean the whole thing? No, I think we're good with what's in the, how it's written right now.
Make the
I'm
motion
okay
with
it.
up to a 5% indirect cap.
Good.
It could be 0 to,
I appreciate that, but I think we're good right now.
motion by Martin, second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. I'm left.
I'm not, Chris,
Mr.
yeah.
Chair.
Happy New Year.
Mr.
You
Chair.
too. Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Katie, just wanna make sure to thank you guys for what you did in Mission last couple days. Sorry I couldn't make it, but
Specific things that's gonna take place, how much money, what the tax is on it. It might be just easier for us to really know what some of these grants are about, because a lot of times they'll just come in with a resolution and like the one Patty brought in, I didn't know anything. I didn't remember that was already in the budget from previous years. But it would be nice to know spelled out in writing what it's gonna accomplish.
Okay, we make sure that there's
And maybe
summary.
Martin, probably, you worked up in contracts and grants, maybe he knows those particulars that, we should know from a council standpoint on what's coming in.
like last minute. It's not a good summary, but it doesn't take a lot to create a summary, you know. Martin?
I mean, just to follow up on that, I mean, all grant applications have a IDC or however most, organizations or departments frame it. And so, this usually part of the application is to include an IDC unless, like I said, either we waive it or we can waive it after the fact or reduce it after the fact. So, contracts and grants doesn't like to hear that. As a former contracts and grants person, I'm hitting myself in the back of the head, but, for things like this, where their budgets are so small as they are, any little bit helps. I mean, $2,200, that's, 2 elders going to the Salish conference or something. So, I always like to, look at those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Whisper. I see a crew.
Maybe. That's quick. At the Bison Range, and then we are proposing a fee increase for the annual pass and day pass. So that will be at the end, maybe after we show how things have gone. I'm gonna find a place.
Hey, Whisper, have you considered out, uniforms too? A shirt or something?
We have shirts that staff use. One of our challenges is that when we have revolving staff, they take their shirts and then we're trying to figure out how best to keep everybody with a nice shirt and then not have everybody head out with them. Yeah, I think to do the PowerPoint first. Oh, that went, thanks, Antoine. When in doubt, Antoine will fix it, no matter where we are. Sure, you can't see it, but you're gonna kind of be the first part. Okay, year 1, Bison Range. Overall, we feel, no? Oh, no, that's probably what I'm not doing. There really is? I thought it was a metaphor for something. Now, everything looks good? Okay. We'll keep an eye out for that fly. So, if you haven't met everyone, Tasha McDaniel, our commercial services manager, Shannon Claremont, lead wildlife biologist, Willie Stevens, lead maintenance foreman, Antoine Paul, information technology and security manager, and Carrie Enos, of course, is our wildlife management program manager, and Stephanie Gillen is, I believe, in the chat. Bison Range went pretty well this year. I'm going to let Tasha give you the rundown. Can you see your screen?
1,664. So it was a total of 53,280 that we made. With our commercial buses, we sold 10 passes, and that was at 30 of $300. And our commercial vans at $15. We sold 30 passes at $450, and our day passes we sell at 10 currently, and we sold $19,748, and that was a total of $197,480. For a total for the visitor center was $251,510.
Those are on pages 23 and 26 of your packet. So we had some infrastructure done that was related to security and just kind of outreach and information. The front gate was in pretty bad disrepair. I don't know, Antoine, if you want to give a quick update on that.
So when we first got there, the front gate had multiple issues. There was integrity issues to where, and structural integrity, as what I'm talking about, to where it would actually look like it was hit by a car before. So we had to bring in some contractors to come in, at least refurbish that gate, make it a little bit stronger. Then we actually changed the operators to where they'd be more reliable. Before, it was constant. It was a constant battle. Me and Willie were changing batteries in these safety sensors that would go out every week or so. And then the gate would open and close, open and close. And then finally the operator went out. So finally we got that gate repaired, new operators, structural integrity, everything's operating fine. It was a challenge, but now it's a lot easier to program and way easier to manage. Hopefully once we get the internet capabilities out there, we can have it to where management can watch who goes in and out of that gate at all times, and we can actually monitor if there is a way, if someone actually comes in or breaks through the gate. And that will be all web-based.
Technology is there. We just don't have the physical technology upgraded at the site, as you're all aware, I'm sure, of the cable infrastructure issues at the Bison Range. We'll talk.
Go ahead, Len.
What about the entire perimeter, the security running? Because I know there were some gate issues when we first took ownership of it that came to my attention. I don't know how those were addressed.
So we actually bumped up the cameras that we started using out there. There are some spots that we didn't get to or we didn't know about, but we now have cameras out there. And actually maintenance actually took out that gate that you have heard about in the past, and we fenced it off and put some barbed wire up there. So that is no longer an issue.
Does the lessee, is the lessee able to get into that lease now? I mean, if you took the gate out and you fenced it, how is the lessee supposed to access it?
So we're talking about a gate that we found on our property on the Bison Range. We did nothing to any lease gate or anything like that. So you can still access your leases and everything through there.
Talking about the combined gift shop and visitor center revenue, we brought in after credit card fees. That was something that we had to work out with accounting this year. Previously, they're trying to set up the square system to be universal across the tribe so that we're capturing the fees appropriately. We've worked really hard with Chloanne and staff over at accounting to try to get that reconciled. I think that we're there. I think that we finally got to that place between IT and accounting.
Yeah, and I know that they're working with Square just because we're charged so much on our fees for credit cards. And like, so right now they're in the process of setting everybody else up through the tribe with the Square. And so like Whisper was saying, they want to set up as a whole where we're not paying that much into the fees. I don't think we're quite there with the fees yet. But I do know that they are working with getting everybody else set up with the Squares. And I think after we have them set up, I think our fees will go down a little bit more.
Is that done through Eagle Bank?
No, so it's a company. It's a company that you go through for it.
At this point, IT sets those credit card machines up for us. We'll have one at Blue Bay and the Bison Range. We sell our permits at the main office through Square, and I believe they're looking at setting other programs up that way as well, but that's counting. And last year we paid around $8,000 in those fees. Our gift shop's doing pretty well. We spent $148,363 and made a profit of $76,645. We have current inventory sitting, waiting. In the summertime, we would actually get low on inventory because we had so many people coming in and purchasing items that we have some stocked up. We've got about 60,000 in inventory ready to sell. We've also been updating the sign infrastructure. We've been working with a contractor out of St. Ignatius to try to get those updated so that we have CSKT appropriate signage around the range. We were trying to get red sleep done, but then winter hit so quick, the road is impassable. So we have to wait till the spring for the contractor to finish up that area. Oops. Wildlife information. Shannon, you want to give a little bit of updates on wildlife?
So in all, our bison herd sits at about 100 or 350 animals total. This year we brought on about 65 calves. We had a final count in June of 60, but we had further births after from late settled cows. We had 16 die of both old age and gore incidents from the rut, both cows and bulls. We had one orphaned female calf that we captured on the south end, reunited with the herd on the Alexander Basin, and we never did see her again, so my guess is she was adopted by the herd again. She did run into the herd and they surrounded her when we let her go, so our hopes were high on that. We did have a semi-heavy lice outbreak out there. We saw some cows that were in pretty rough shape, running around and constantly rolling in dust holes, and we figured out it was lice and it was bringing them down health-wise. And so Charlie and I kind of initiated a brainstorming idea how we could delouse them without handling them. What we came up with was filling paintball gun capsules with delouser and hitting them with that at a distance. And that seemed to work pretty good. So we kind of took care of that. No capture as of 22, but 23 will initiate the capture and handling event again. And I would initiate, I'm thinking that we're going to have to surplus a few more bison out this year just because of the high number that we have.
Yeah, Carol, go ahead.
I noticed the elk 350, is that on the range?
That was as of 2021, late 2021. And that was after our call.
Wow, so there's probably more. See,
Um,
remember what I talked about going on at Berry Basin, and now we've got this going on at the Bison Range. We need to really start to manage this herd.
we are actively culling. We got 40 out of there last year, and I think my last update from Charlie was 10 this year. And the maintenance crew are not seeing the elk numbers that they were the year before.
Well, I think the farmers and ranchers are seeing the elk herds.
We do have, yeah.
Talk to these guys.
We have been talking to ranchers across the reservation. Kaylee's been doing a pretty big, rancher inventory, calling people and asking if they're willing to have, tribal hunters on their property, asking if they're open to administrative hunts. We're actively talking to ranchers about, elk numbers and just trying to keep our tribal hunters engaged. It's a challenge.
And then opening up the hunt, I mean, we have permits. Is there a thought of maybe more?
For 44D, it's not allowed for anybody to hunt elk other than tribal members. So anybody can go hunt elk, they're just not doing it.
That's the main problem we have is people targeting bulls rather than cows.
Well, without bulls, you don't have calves.
It only takes one bull to get 30, 40 cows, so your problem is in the cows.
And it affects the population structure. So we may see other impacts on the population with people just trophy hunting versus taking the cows, which is what needs to be taken. We're trying to do outreach for people. We know that people are frustrated, and it's not just something that happened this year.
Okay, to finish out, our bighorn sheep and pronghorn herds are down from what they used to be in the not so much recent past, but our pronghorn numbers are down to about 15 animals, and that is due to both depredation by coyotes and old age, and they have kind of hit a bottleneck inbreeding situation. So hopefully next year we can get some more antelope brought in. The state was approving up to 50 animals to be brought in. Hopefully we can get that worked out this summer and get that in works for the winter. Our bighorn sheep population is a different story. Since the pneumonia outbreak in the early 2000s, they lost over 80% of the herd, so we're down to about 13 remainders now. The researcher keeps pushing me to bring more animals in, and I don't see the evidence of the herd surviving after you have a pneumonia outbreak. So I don't know whether we just wait this out and start fresh again, or just say forget it in the end. I don't know what the step is on that. I think that's about all I have, other than spraying. We targeted some major weeds. As you can see there, an estimation of about 25% of the range is infected with ventonata. The wiregrass, cheatgrass is about another 15%. So that could be intermixed with ventonata also, but we have a major problem with fir infestation on the range, Douglas fir, and I'm working on a plan to try and curtail that a bit in steps. I'm hoping to get a helicopter contractor out there to look at it and tell me what his thoughts are on that, rather than having to revamp our whole infrastructure for logging trucks. About 40% of our rangeland is heavily infested with annuals. So you've got the cheatgrass, ventonata, and other annuals that would be in there. Peter is starting to do some experimentation on the riparian areas. He's wanting to do some restoration on them. He released some biocontrol mainly on knapweed last year. I know in the past Fish Wildlife Service had knapweed, toadflax, and for purple loosestrife, which isn't on the range, but they were hitting the outer WPAs that they had with that were infected.
Good, Len.
When are we gonna start prescribing more fire on the landscape?
I've worked with Art on that. We've got a map that broke the range out into 22 different units. And I was hoping that he would have burned about 1,000 acres up there this year, but he keeps missing his windows. And that'll come, I'm hoping, with the extraction of the Douglas fir also. So we'll do some underburning and hopefully get some of our bunch grasses coming back.
And by Art, you mean Art Trahan?
Art Trahan, yeah, from fire control.
Okay. So we do have some, dates for this spring.
I'm hoping so. I haven't talked to him about this year. My guess is he's gonna roll back to his initial units that he wanted to burn, but I can talk to him and discuss that further. We had one 800-acre piece and then another, I think it was about 300 acres that he was wanting to burn, but we never got to it on either one of those.
Right.
But yeah, we're hoping to get a rotation system in there. So we're burning, you know, X amount of acres every year to kind of refresh the range.
Okay,
And
thanks,
bring
Sean.
that.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, do you have a planning meeting, periodically about the range? I mean, that I can attend, because I have some questions about the, invasive annuals, 40% of the invasive annuals. I don't know what the budget figure is for that, or if you even have a budget. The riparian wetlands need work. I mean, that waters the animals. I'm just wondering, where is your shortages and, I mean, we're here to take care of those animals, and I guess if they run out of feed, I got a real big concern. So, we need to take care of it. And I know you guys are doing everything you can, but maybe just to have a insight on what else is going on, I'll feel a little more at ease about it.
Sure, we can invite you to our planning meetings. We'll be having more planning meetings in the spring to determine what we'll be doing for the next year. The challenge, as you all know, is that the Fish and Wildlife Service really kind of didn't have a very good handle on the range condition and the wildlife populations that were there. The idea from them was to have this natural aesthetic of all these different large ungulates within this 18,000 acre fenced in area. And without having a handle on the weeds and without culling the elk that they should have been doing before we took over, we're in there cleaning up issues that other people didn't spend the money to do. So we do have funding from the supplemental money that came, not the supplement, well, we do have a supplemental budget from the BIA. We asked them for another $3 million last year for FY23. I haven't heard anything from that though. Everything just got approved a couple weeks ago, so maybe we're in that. We had the deferred maintenance budget that came in that didn't identify plants, but we're using that funding to deal with some of that vegetation issue. Our range manager said that rangeland is highly degraded. It's not in a good condition, and our goal is to not supplemental feed. So it is something that we're working on. Peter Begoni is great as a range manager. He's working on these prescriptions, but, you know, and he's working with the lands department on grants to get funding to spray ventinata. Those are aerial applications for weed spray. So we're working with lands, we're working internally. We're cleaning up Fish and Wildlife Services mess.
Because I did not know that we did not feed the animals.
No, no
Until
supplemental.
somebody said, yeah, no, we don't, it's natural. I'm like, oh God, okay, great. But then also the fencing, I'm just, yeah, what if they got out? What if they escaped? Oh my God.
The instance for the rangeland, that's one of the reasons I'm really wanting to hit the Douglas fir, to open that back up to a ponderosa savanna, as you'd say, with bunch grasses in between, so they can actually get in there and feed. My goal is not to have so much winter habitat and thermal cover for elk and deer, and maybe we can disperse some of them animals out of there by just logging. But for the range conditions as they are now, the open grasslands that are infected with ventinata, that's a tough one. We've got one tool in our bag that kind of works exceptionally well, but then we've got to follow up with planting. And planting usually doesn't go well with natives. They're really touchy. I know Peter missed a kind of missed a window just because there was some snafus in his application for it, but he was gonna spray about 1,100 acres of Mentonada this year, and we just never got it done. So that's up for again for this year, so.
Question, on the elk and the deer, are you planning on removing deer too? What's the estimate population?
That, you know, boy, I don't remember the exact count from Oahe.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll get another, population or flight count populations estimate for all the species. I think they're planning on flying in early January, so by mid-January, we should have a, accurate number for all the different ungulate species on the range for this year.
So every 2 elk equals 1 bison? Every-
Actually, it's almost 1-to-1.
Really?
It's 80% for an elk, equal to a bison, yeah.
How many deer are equal to bison?
Deer
Or-
would probably take 2 or 3. Yeah, I'd have to look at the even comparison, but, they did take out a few white-tailed does this year. That wasn't my main target because they can go in and out as they please. And the elk can too, but it's, you know, they tend to stay there because it's a refuge for them. The deer, I mean, the whole Mission Valley is a refuge for them, so they tend to go in and out, but we can start targeting them. We just got to have a place for them to go because not a lot of people are willing to take them.
Yeah, hopefully, Jordan's food sovereignty program is an answer for that. But one thing, and it's really important to note with this, with the weeds and the AUMs that are available on that range is that, it's an island and they're coming from somewhere, the weeds are. So when you say we have a Ventonana problem on the bison range, we have a Ventonana problem on tribal land outside of the bison range. And so you look at the impact here where you have 50% of the range productivity impacted by invasive species. This is across the landscape, on all of our range units and ag leases. And so for me, it's really important to unleash the funding that's available in the water compact to be able to start working on this in a very diligent way, because there's money in that $1 billion to be able to help with this situation. You know, it's you got to treat a bigger landscape, be really truly effective here, because it's always been it's you're surrounded by weeds, and it's a constant battle, and you really have to put a lot of effort into it.
I got one thing just to add, excuse me, Happy New Year. But one thing to think about too is, you know, as careful as we can be with vehicles and ATVs and washing it after we've been driving through all, you know, off the roads, is the bison themselves are walking through all these weeds and spreading it as fast as, you know, it's really hard to keep up with that. So keep that in mind too, so.
Yeah, it's that and how they penetrate that fence. So when you have coyotes and white-tailed deer going free will in and out of the refuge, they're all transmitting weeds. It's incredible. So that surrounding landscape is pretty important. And yeah, wildlife moves weeds just like people do, and the wind.
Vehicles also, it was always a kind of a wish to get like a undercarriage wash unit at the beginning of the bison range. So as people came in, we could spray off their undercarriage so they're not carrying weeds in also.
Len Lemch, I just want to thank all of you first and Happy New Year. Give you the maintenance work update. Kind of back to the rangeland for the bison. We are trying to we opened up a couple of areas where we're building, putting fence in about 20 acres on this north boundary. That gives us a little more range feed, and also what they used to call the hardened track horse pasture. We're taking out the fence there, and that's probably another 120 acres, I think there. But that's really infested too with some different weeds there. So when we open that up,
the bison are finally starting to hit that area a little bit, mostly bulls, and so it takes them a while to find out that they can go in there after years of not being able to go there. So that's something we're working on, with Shannon and them to, some of the places that weren't accessible for the bison, but will be after this year, hopefully. So as far as the fence repair on the boundary, when we first moved in or took it back, we did work on it extensively. There were, several spots on the south boundary that were, you could tell where people or animals or whatever crossing. And that's why we worked with Anton, and he set up cameras down there where he thought we needed them. So we did a lot of patching that way at first, and then worked all the way around. And one of the things that's going on is all the wood posts are rotting, and you can just go over there and shake them. Only thing that's holding those braces up are the steel posts that are next to them and the wire. So we're going to start probably on our valley hillside, working on replacing all the wood posts down there and work our way around to the whole I'm guessing 30 miles of fence that are on the perimeter. And so there's a lot of work in the summer and spring and fall that the maintenance crew can do on fencing. But on the interior fencing, we are going to be removing a lot of the south side fencing. We work with Shannon and them, and because right now the range doesn't do they don't close off different sections. It's a free roaming wherever they want to go now. So all the gates are open, and I think it's really good the way it is, because they go where they need to go to get the feed and find it. And I don't think they overgraze that way. But if you leave them in one section, I think it would be more damage than good. And so we'll be removing a lot of fence on that south side, and a lot of the gates we'll keep. So that'll be an ongoing, probably, I'm guessing 3 or 4 years, at least on that. One of the main other things, when we did take some fence out already, what has happened, and I didn't realize it, when we pulled some of the steel U-channel fence posts, they're 7 foot, 8 foot tall, but we pulled them out and they're rotted about 1.5 to 2 foot up in certain parts of the ground. I don't know, I think it was the clay, not the clay areas, but half of the posts that we pulled were rotted out. So I'm wondering, what about the rest of it, the perimeter and some of the interior stuff? Is that happening? We have to, once we start removing some of the other fences, we'll look at that and keep a closer eye on it, because that could be an issue later on, Any questions on fencing? Or
is there any benefit for your weed spraying, Shannon, in having fences, internal fences?
Some of the fences actually do catch ventonata as they try to move wind by wind, but with the bison going everywhere, I think our infestation is everywhere anyway.
Well, I mean, just for the health of the animals, what you treat.
Not really. I think the grazing application on them is pretty well known. Fish and Wildlife Service was spraying the same spray that we're using. So the animals were right on it afterwards. So, and it's one of the areas that they hit usually fairly early in the summertime. When they sprayed it late summer. So the sprays that we're using are late summer, early fall.
Okay, that's about the only advantage I can think of for fences.
Yeah.
Keep animals out of a newly sprayed area.
And we did retain some of the interior fences just for funneling effect for when we do handle the animals.
mostly on the north side, when we do the gathering, is where we're going to leave most of the fence. So when we do it. So I guess we'll move on to the road maintenance area. We did grade it last year. Scott Johnson brought his crew and they used our grader and theirs, and we graded the whole road all the way through. We didn't do the dust abatement last year, but we're gonna be working on a contract this year to do that. The main road, excuse me, coming in from the entrance to the visitor center is in need of repair, along with the parking lot. You can see where none of them have been chip sealed or sealed, and it's starting to crumble in areas, and the frost is starting to put big, I guess, what are they called? Dips in their road. So, and we got a hold of Scott, and he came out and looked at a few areas, but I think BIA is taking over the main road on Red Sleep Drive and all the way through, and he doesn't know if they cover the parking lot or not, or the West Loop Road, or down by the residence area or the maintenance shop. But he's checking into that. So we got to work with him and see how much he's going to cover when we do any more work on any of the roads. So we'll find that out with him. Those are some of the bigger issues that we have as far as the road. And then the road conditions with the different times of seasons, especially in the winter, can get pretty hazardous sometimes. And there's a few narrow spots that if you're not careful, we did have a few accidents already. I don't know if you heard, but it's just because people don't pay attention, and some of them places are pretty narrow, but so we do try to close it when it's really icy. And that's why I guess we needed to get another plow to try to keep up, because with one plow, it takes a day and a half to get everything done, what we need to, but we have one on the way. And cattle guards are an issue there. We finally got some more cattle guards in with the way everything is going.
Really, you have a sander with your grader?
We're getting 2 sanders coming in. The one we had last year, just we used it, but it kept breaking down. Just like everything else that we've had out there. I'm sorry, but I just, so yeah, we got 2 sanders, a new plow, a new truck coming. And the road maintenance is, I guess, the cattle guards. I'm glad we're taking some road fencing out on that south side, so we don't have to worry about some of those cattle guards being replaced. If they go bad, we can just fill them, and so that'll save some costs there, because cattle guards aren't cheap. Other than that, any questions on roads? Other than I'd like to see, I seen where they had some good tours that we could give special tours to you guys on that south side or something. Places you'd never seen. And the place is way bigger than I expected it. I mean, it's some of the other roads are really rough, but that's just, so vehicle replacement, what we went through is we're getting a new, we have a new truck with the plow coming, 2 new sanders. We had a side-by-side and another ATV. We did, the good thing about Fish and Wildlife, they did get us a new tractor, which is awesome. They had a good backhoe, a grader. Some of their equipment was pretty good shape, and 1 new truck. So we do have some older trucks that need to be surplused or something. We'll have to get that figure out once we get the other ones in.
Martin?
What's the status of your EVs? Still waiting on batteries?
Yeah, we're still waiting on batteries. So I talked to Dave Smith, who we bought those from. They told me that we needed a Chevy Bolt certified mechanic to look at those and reprogram them, and then they can order batteries. So hopefully now that we have them reprogrammed, by a certified Chevy Bolt dealer now that we can get those batteries. It's gonna be about 6 months is what they're saying.
Those take a long drive over a short cliff. Oh, wait, we're in the open.
Oh, not
Abby,
without
Abby,
exploding.
take that out.
Okay, I'll try to speed up. I was gonna tell you elk story on that, but I So wind damage, and tree removal. Anytime there's trees on that, especially the main drive or dangerous trees, we remove them on the road. But most of our tree removal is gonna be down in a day use area. There's a lot of juniper that are getting old and big and wind damage, so we're gonna be doing a lot of removal there. And the day use thing, thinning, cleaning, safety for safety reasons. Our herd health checks are every Monday and Thursday. We actually go, that's why we're here, so it's really important to us to really watch the buffalo and check on them all the time. Cause Charlie and Shannon are only two people and they can't, be out there. So it's better to have more eyes on it and we do check the boundary fence on those days along with the herd check. So that's an ongoing thing every week. Sanitation, vault toilets, cleaning and garbage removal. That kind of pretty much speaks for itself unless you had any questions on that. The new shop we moved in and excuse me, after being bumped back months at a time, we finally got to move in this last fall. And we're completely not set up yet, but by the end of this winter, we hope to be set up and invite you down for a look at everything. And we have extensive cleaning yet to do down there on some of the older buildings and some of the junk storage stuff that they just stacked. And we need to do some reclaiming of land after we remove it. So, and I've been working with Charlie and Shannon on that. So that's my update for now. Any questions?
Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may have already addressed this, but I received a phone call from a tribal member. And he was a little concerned that you had employees out there that were taking horns and taking them home and selling them. So want to make sure that the season's starting to come up in a few months, remind them that they're not to be taking those off. Because I know it used to be the Boy Scouts used to go in there and it was quite a help to the organization when those kids collected. But and then have you ever thought of, I know you have to generate some income, a zip line in there, that south end and run it off that corner down to the headquarters there. But anyway, I just thought that might be something to think of.
Our intention is to collect our antlers and to start to rebuild the structure, the antler fixture that is there. It's crumbling and falling apart. It's very photographed, so people really want to see that kind of artwork. We're trying to collect those. I believe that Charlie keeps those locked up, but if we are having some of those leave the range, we will reinforce with our staff that, that's not allowed, and we weren't aware that people were taking those. I think that we've been trying to do some brainstorming to think of monetary avenues to pursue. And I think zipline might have been on the list just from previous discussions.
And I do have staff meeting every first Tuesday of the month, and we do go over some of those things like that. So, and I reminded them last month already, and it could have been, we got a lot of young guys that are out there hunting that are on our crew, not on the range, but off. And they might have, their antlers in the back of their truck from somewhere else. I don't know. And people might have seen that. That's just my thoughts, but we'll continue to remind them.
Sorry, one of the things we're doing is working on rejuvenation of our spring-fed stock tanks. Again, so we can move the bison around the range so that they're not concentrating in specific areas. We can get water in all the areas and get our stock tanks functioning, then it can draw those animals to areas where they might not be concentrating right now to utilize the forage in those areas. We also have our Bison Range Visitor Center upgrades. If you haven't been down, please come. And I did make a little note that if council wants to schedule a tour, we can facilitate as many or a few, anybody who wants to come and do a tour of our facilities as well as the new Visitor Center. Stephanie Gillen did an amazing job working with the Salish Culture Committee, Salish Kalispé, to do some history upgrades and language. She worked with Kootenai Culture Committee to make sure that we had the right language on the walls and got those things up so that we're telling our story versus somebody else telling a skewed version of our story. The gift shop was a new addition. It looks really nice in there. We're selling items to people. That's going well. And so it just looks really great. And Stephanie's doing a lot of outreach and education with people and giving presentations around.
Hey, Whisper, I can give a quick update if you would like.
Sure.
Okay, sorry if it's my turn. So Jeswex Pesia, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Sorry I could not be there. I'm on my last day of quarantine because of COVID. So my year has not started out amazing, but it can only get better from here. So happy 2023. So as Whisper mentioned, definitely worked with David Rockwell as well, which we are actually trying to get him into tribal council so we can honor him. I just have not heard back from him yet. I know his mother, he's been traveling kind of back and forth to help with her. So hopefully we can do that soon. But yes, it was a great honor working with the culture committees. Tony and Kashola Sr. was amazing support and in getting this project done. We did do a booklet, which we're just in the midst of trying to get all of the information that David Rockwell had helped us produce. One of those things is a actual book of the museum in its current state right now. And hopefully we can get that completed. And so we can have that as a sale item within our visitor center. But yes, great honor working with both culture committees and David Rockwell. This was his last big hurrah project before his retirement. So we hope to honor him. We did one of the last projects, you know, and as Whisper mentioned, we'd worked hard on getting new signage in around the Bison Range as well. One of the last signing projects we did where there are new signs that are around the walking path that is at the visitor center. And with the focus of one of Tom's great sayings of thinking outside the fence. So on that path, it talks about the Mission Mountains, and it has a picture of the Mission Mountains and kind of talks about that. It talks about things along the path like the bunch grasses and the native vegetation that you'll find there. It talks about juniper and how juniper is spread throughout and you know the uses of that. And then you get to one part of the trail where it looks outside of the fence to the Ferry Basin Elk Management Unit and talks about Ferry Basin and talks about fire because of the current fires there. You get to another section, it talks about that 9-mile range and the importance of, you know, for travel and just the importance of that area. And then, you know, talks about Glacial Lake Missoula. So we hope to, you know, and always adding culture and language to everything that we put out. And so we hope to educate anyone, you know, not everyone is going to stop at every single sign. Some people do, but, you know, if they stop at one, I mean, we, you know, we can educate whenever possible. So that was one of the last projects. As Whisper talked about, we did, we hoped to get our sign crew started on Red Sleep Drive, replacing the mile marker posts and the point of interest posts that are out there, the numbered signs that are degrading and falling over. We held them off until Red Sleep closed, which was the end of November. And then, as you know, winter hit like literally the very next week. So they were limited in what they got done. So we're hoping to extend that project or that contract and that project and hoping we can get them up there in spring before we open Mother's Day weekend. They are also working on the plaque and lettering for the new naming of the visitor center for the Mickey T. Pablo Visitor Center. So we hope to have that completed. And, you know, if you guys are interested in doing a ceremony for that this spring, we can try to plan around that. And also to address Carol's concern about shirts and uniforms. Yeah, Whisper mentioned it is very hard to keep them in them or get them back from the employees. We've actually been reaching out with nothing in return. So there are new shirts on order, not only for our front desk staff, but for all of the staff that are at the Bison Range, including the maintenance program. With the outreach and education, I tallied up numbers and it kind of started out slow, which was okay because we were super busy, but we had school groups into November, which was crazy because of weather. So maintenance, Willie and his maintenance staff were amazing with our last 2 school groups. They allowed us to use the maintenance shop and to make it happen, which worked. So we probably won't be allowing schools to schedule into November this year, but you know, it was our first year, so we're kind of feeling things out. With outreach at the Bison Range, we reached around 1,500 people with our local school groups, universities, and adult groups. And one thing I want to address is each time U of M came, and this is new for us, for being a business making money, but each time the University of Montana came for presentations, they would give the Bison Range, donate to the Bison Range $250. And so, and then also we had people, who have been coming for years and who, support us as a tribe, getting back the Bison Range and want to donate funds. So we're hoping to eventually be like Blue Bay, to where those funds stay within the Bison Range. So we can maybe use that money to do, and we're hoping to, and that's one thing on my list to talk to you about, do another Bison Range celebration, make that an annual event. And I know Whisper has some nice slides coming up on that, but that event kind of kicked off all powwows for the year. It was such an amazing event that was put on, and the energy that was felt there was, everyone was felt, it was just amazing energy because everyone was so supportive of what was happening. And really that was a celebration for us as a people, and it went over well. So hoping that maybe these funds can stay within the Bison Range so we can fund things like the celebration that we hope to have annually. So with that, Lemlemch Pesiat.
Some of the infrastructure needs at the Bison Range, I'll go over really quick before we get our action items. The drinking water and well need updated and replaced. We failed one of the safe water drinking tests earlier this year. We're working with housing and the EPA to get ourselves in compliance. We currently need a couple of documents that we don't have and are working with some agencies to help get those done. The internet and telephone cable upgrades, we're currently using Starlink in our auxiliary buildings, and a lot of people are on the old hard lines. The phones don't work very well. We don't have phones at the visitors, at the maintenance shop. There's just some challenges we've had with the IT part of what we're doing, and we're hoping that soon there will be a resolution, because it really hamstrings us to a lot of the things that we can do, because we don't have high-speed cable, because we don't have cell service. We rely heavily on the towers for walkie-talkie communication for safety of staff and the traveling public. Willie mentioned the parking lots and the roads. ADA improvements, we are not ADA compliant at all. People in wheelchairs cannot get into the visitor center building, both because of the ramp and the door configuration. The bathrooms are not ADA compliant. We've been trying to look at ways to get grants to help fix that, but that's a really big deal for our elders and tribal members who cannot move freely and need the assistance and can't get into the facility to see the upgrades. That ADA part is really frustrating, and we're really trying to work on that. The trail systems, again, needed maintenance and upgrades, things that were just left. An irrigation pivot system, I believe Willie's gonna work with the people in Ronan, NRCS, to try to get some irrigation there for some of our pasture lands to water, again, for the horses that are used for work, as well as the bison. And then the new visitor center planning, we're hoping that we will be engaged with discussions on that at some point soon, because we don't know what's going on there. But also thinking about the visitor center on Ravalli Hill, we think that there needs to be some overall planning that includes the road consideration, like not just the road to get us in, but there are roads, the road's old and it needs some safety improvements, and we need to have that planned. And having increased traffic out there, we need pullouts, we need other facilities, and we really need an overall site plan. If we're gonna build this big facility on Ravalli Hill to get the monetary impulse so that we can run this place, we need to have a plan, or we're not going to be safe, and we're not going to be able to accommodate all these people. So we really want to stress that if there's any push or assistance we could get with that site planning, because we need that, we feel, as a staff. Pictures from the celebration. Thank you all for being there, and that was so amazing. And as Stephanie said, if that's something that we wish to continue, how to fund that annually. We don't have that in our annual tribal programming for the facility, but if there's a way that we can look at celebration, that would be great. And for 2023, our plans are the roads, trying to improve those and making plans, potentially adding additional pavilions in the day use for people to be able to rent and use. Still working on that ADA accessibility, more advertisements, grant writing for projects, getting our management plan written. That's a big project that needs just time, and more staff training and coordination. That is all on that. So any other questions before we move to the fee schedule? Yes.
Thank you. Have you guys worked with Herb Webb's office down here? There's a lot of funding available for water development, weed programs and stuff. He's located down in Lands here. I think he's getting ready to retire, but he has an associate working with him. But if you haven't, there's funding there. You have to get on a list, but they pay out quite well.
Thanks, Terry. We haven't worked closely with Herb Webb at this point, and then with his retirement, we just didn't know what the process was. I think we did ask recently if they were planning to put somebody new in that position. They say 2 people or something. I don't know. It sounded like they would be. So we will continue to work with them.
Whisper, when you bring up the issue of planning, it's really important that, because it's a really important topic if you're increasing the visitor days on the existing infrastructure. How will that impact that? Does that prove to be more of a problem than a gain? But that's all part of your comprehensive plan. So it's really, you need to engage in the whole comprehensive planning to help facilitate that. Because you're talking about all the collateral issues with human management. And if you want to do, more pullouts or different road configuration, other than the existing footprint of the roads, if you're just talking about enhancing the existing footprint, you're not going to create new roads. That's different, but you really need to really kind of think about it right now. We will be engaging the SNK Technologies with them in a planning for the visitor center here shortly. So that's coming up. So, but you really need to get that comprehensive when you're talking about the comprehensive stuff. If you're gonna go away from the plan that we've already adopted, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service plan, then you know, start thinking about those things right now. Make those notes right now to bring them forward.
Okay. All right, proposed fee increase, we wanted to try to get in here as soon as possible so that if we were approved for the annual fee increase, that we could start selling those as people want to buy them right now so that they can get their money's worth. Last year, this is page 23. Actually, I'll put that up here, stop sharing. I don't have both pages. Okay, page 23. Annual pass currently is $20. We are proposing to bump that up to $60 annually. That will give us a projected revenue of $159,840, which would increase, would be an increase of $106,000 over last year. Thank you. Down to 23. We would also increase the commercial bus from 30 to 45, commercial van from $15 to $35, and the day pass would increase from $10 to $15. The people that are coming in are telling us that they would pay more to visit the bison range. We hear that repeatedly by people. We think that there's a benefit to increase slightly in the fees for this next year.
You have two different numbers here. Am I reading this correctly? So proposed 2023 fee increase, you have the day pass is $15. And then projected increase over last year, the next table, you have it at 20. Is it 20 or 15?
Oh, sorry. I meant to.
I mean, I would
change
support
that.
20.
Sorry, that was the only number that's off. Yes, sorry. So that bottom number, I was working off two different tables. I might have updated the increase to 15. Not sure if that's a $15 or $20 increase.
The increase overall is like, it's correct.
Okay, okay. For the $15. Okay.
Any questions from council? Did you, in the annual pass, you actually had numbers of people that said they pay $60 for an annual pass?
Yep.
So I know for our day passes that we had a handful of visitors who said that they would pay more. I mean, when you think about them coming there and spending a whole day of being able to enjoy our park and the animals that they get to see, I felt like we were underselling ourselves too at $10. I didn't have anybody say anything about the annual pass, but I mean, you go there twice for $20. I don't think it's unreasonable that you ask for $60. That's 3 times you come there. Anything after that, you know, it pays for itself and it's a calendar year. The visitor center made about $270,000 last year. And if we made this increase, it would give us a $206,000 increase. So we would be making, just with the visitor center alone, about $500,000.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I believe Glacier Park charges $25, and I would support charging that much for our park.
Yeah, when I looked, I did some research for the national parks. They ran about $35 per vehicle, and their annual passes ran about from anywhere from $50 to $75 for the annual. And then I also looked at non-federal parks, and they actually charge per person. So we were just trying to charge per car, you know, because we're not federally funded anymore. And so, yeah, so anyone, they charge per person, it was about $30.
Yeah, I think I really would rather see your day pass at $20 versus 15.
I think that would be great.
That makes more sense when you're talking about, if you go.
We
more
weren't
than-
trying, sorry, we
Well,
weren't
if you go
trying
more
to
than
shell
3
shock
times,
anybody.
it's worth it.
Just because everybody complained, you know, and I know from like last year, we raised it, I think, $5. So we just weren't trying to shell shock, but I think 20 would be great.
Isn't that day pass too, just think about as per vehicle? So there could be 5 people in there for $20.
Yeah, at least paying $10 per person. I think your average vehicle has at least 2 people in it, probably closer to 3. But Carol,
Tribal member with the family, non-member family, 3.
The tribal member is the driver, then that's free.
So make sure you've got a tribal member driver.
that's what people do going to Glacier.
People are going to Glacier.
Guide. Any other questions? You all want to accept the proposed increase? I would, I don't like to make a motion, but technically I can. I'm not going to, but I would like to see that go to 20 instead of 15. Okay, the shock's over. We got a long ways to go. We got a $1.5 million budget. You're making 330,000. So we got a long ways to go.
I feel like we have to generate revenue and it starts with our visitors.
It does.
So-
You play, you pay.
Only if the extra $10 goes for weed. No.
Could have a weed surcharge. That's not marijuana. What?
No, make the motion to accept the proposed fee.
With the $20.
Motion by Len to approve the proposed fee increase for the bison range for the 2023 season with the additional increase of the day use pass to $20 instead of the proposed 15. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? All the other proposed increases, yes. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Are a park, and we are open on most of the major holidays in the summer. So we're running 4th of July, we're opening Memorial. We did kind of want to set some days that we are closed. It gets kind of like it's a toss-up and the staff are talking about it. We don't know if we should be open or closed. So we decided we wanted to propose that Thanksgiving, we would be closed. The whole facility, gates closed, nobody's driving in and getting in an accident. Staff have to come out and deal with them. We're closing the gate, you can't come in on Thanksgiving Day. We are proposing a half a day on Christmas Eve, just because the staff are working all those other holidays, proposing closing at 2 p.m.
Well, you got those last minute shoppers that gotta go to that fantastic gift store.
That's true, for half day.
That would be Mike Dolson on his way home.
Thank you for coming in. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and then of course, any safety related, like snow days like we had, that those would be closed days because people would get to work and they'd say, well, let's just stay open, but it was kind of scary.
Martin?
Sorry, I meant to ask this earlier. Do you have anyone living in the old staff houses?
Currently, we have Jacques Graham, our game warden that lives out there. He's on site. He opens the gate and deals with safety. Also, Peter Bagoni, our range manager, is not from here. He had to move here. So we offered him a house there as well. And he also does the same thing, deals with after-hour issues with the gate and people and wildlife. So they're working extra hours there as well. And then the other house is the wildlife office. So there's nobody can live there.
I'd make a motion to accept the dates if we need to.
Motion by Martin to accept the proposed holiday closure dates for the bison range on an annual basis. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Looks like it's unanimous.
Thank you. Page 25, please. The dreaded photography permit fee schedule. We have come up with another fee permit schedule to try to capture funds from people making money off of commercial photography on the bison range. We have not completely fettered out all of the details, though we will if these fee schedules are approved. At the start, we have the educational photography permit. That is for kid classes, for reservation, generally kids that are coming in with a class that say, oh, we're high schoolers and we're taking a photography class. We would not charge them a permit fee to take photographs on the bison range. On a one-day photography permit, we would charge $60. This is generally for people doing commercial use, shooting a commercial. Somebody said there's a billboard down by Mission that obviously has a bison range photo on it. We don't know anything about when that was taken or anything, but it's something like that. We would be
Reminds me,
charging.
you have a billboard on the Bison Range property too that needs to be taken down. It's down at the base, down by Ravalli. It's on the part that's not fenced, but it's
Okay.
Bison Range property. It's outside of the range fence itself,
Okay, we'll look into that for sure.
like one of those cherry signs or whatever it is.
Okay, for that business down the road.
Stacy or Shannon knows where
Yeah.
it's at.
So a one-day photography permit for $60, a 30-day photography permit for $300. Last year, we proposed $200, I believe, for that. The videography permit, which would be for commercials or movies, that people would have to stay on established roads. If they wanted to come in and video or make a commercial or do a movie for half a day, that would be $400. For a full day would be $800. If they were doing a 3-day, like extended videography that could not occur on our busy days of Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, we would charge $2,400, and they would have to have a staff member with them for public safety, their safety, and communication because there's no cell phone service. A one-day interview permit. And I guess I just wanted to quickly say, these are all scenarios that we have seen through the last year. People are calling us constantly, asking for all different things that makes your head spin, all the things people want to do out there. So we tried to break down everything that we saw and were asked over the last year to try to put it out there. A one-day interview permit, that would be for people doing interviews of staff. That's NPR, the Missoulian, other people who are doing special interest things. If it is of interest to our staff and we want to participate with that, there would be no fee. That's something that would benefit the bison range, whether it's tourism related or something that's beneficial. If it is not something that we're interested in as staff, they would bump back up to the videography commercial or one-day commercial photography permit fee, and they would have to pay. That would kind of be at the discretion of staff, whether they wanted to be interviewed. Second to last is a one-day group photography permit. This is for workshops. We had people wanting to come and set up in the day use area and do just photography workshops. We did not allow that last year, but we are proposing a $400 for one day with a limit of 10 people in a group. That would be for college age and adults to do a class or some sort of workshop. And then finally would be a one-day special access, which would be guided by a bison range staffer. That may include early hours or late hours, and we would take them on the boundary road and give them extra access. That would probably be also a limit. We're still establishing all the details of what that would be, but those are our proposals for those different photography permits, and asking that everybody buy the day use fee to come into the park as well. No trail cameras or drones ever.
Any questions?
Question.
Oh, Terry, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering if you should identify, like, for professional people come in there and they use those paper or those pictures or certain promotions, that there be a royalty fee attached. You know, if it goes out and they're making a lot of money on some of that stuff, it'd be a small, but it would add up over a period because somebody gets, especially when you're talking about filming sorts and stuff. I just think that would be something to consider.
Okay.
Kind of like the Yellowstone TV series. We already have. Any other questions? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, that's a good point, Terry. Now, if Yellowstone comes, is that something that we would address, or is that something that Whisper and company? I mean, right, I mean, I think that's a good question, because what it does is opening up the world to the bison ranges. Like, can you imagine it being inundated with all those people, and we're not really prepared for something like that?
I guess, do you mean the people that would come because of the video? I mean, yes, that, I guess we're trying to capture those people because we're trying to build a bigger visitor center and say, hey, more people come. So I guess there is the conundrum. Are we going to open this up and make it too big, and then there's a problem with too many people and we're really focused on the bison, but how do we pay for it if we don't? It's definitely something that we're always thinking about. I don't know where the medium is, and potentially we address that when we get there. Maybe all of a sudden we're ticketed and you have to get a pre-ticket like you do to Glacier to come into the bison range. If we get to that point, I think there's precedence there. As far as the videography, it's kind of been a challenge. We've gotten in contact with Lance to try to figure out where do you end and we begin with the photography, videography permits, because they have a different one. I guess the boundary of the bison ranges are different. I don't know how to set a limit, like if somebody's got a lot of money versus a small time filmmaker who we can't distinguish between the two. Like, I'm not sure how we could set one price for Yellowstone, which I guess we would just come to council and talk to you about it, versus a small time videographer who just wants to shoot a little film.
I'm talking more of the big scale, like Yellowstone type feature, because it's okay to feature gray wolf. We want people there. But when you start coming in and the bison are starting to be impacted, then that is a really big concern for me.
We would definitely never do anything that impacts the wildlife. We had a request from a car dealership in Missoula who had the bison truck, and they wanted to bring their trucks out, park 3 trucks on the range or the grass, and then us to get the bison to mingle around behind them. We just said, nope, can't do it, sorry. Because that's unreasonable and it impacts the wildlife, and we just say no.
The good news on those concerns is you have a gated community, so you can restrict access how you see and define the carrying capacity as you need. So, like to be able to be in that position. So,
5-year plan would address the plan that you talked about, having a comprehensive.
well, that would be part of it. That's it. They need to identify the limiting factors of the range for improvements to visitor services. The great thing about having a standalone great visitor center is that can be the destination in itself. They don't have to drive the bison range. They could just go to this visitor center that's outstanding. It's right on Highway 93. And that could in the future constitute our public access to the bison range. It depends on, you just got to be able to generate enough revenue to help us offset the O&M. But Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume you require waiver or insurance for anybody that goes out there?
You guys did say that last time, and we would have that in the details, yes.
Because I know a guy up at Hot Springs, a photographer, went up to a bison, got real close, ran over and got hurt and stuff, even though he wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
We can't fix Hot Springs. No. It's Mike's task. That was, yeah, they have to have insurance in their immediate commercial thing. Standard protocol. Any other questions? We have support for the proposed photography permit fee schedule. Motion by Terry, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. Sorry to put you off schedule. I apologize. We're out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, you guys. See you out on the range. Okay, we gotta take a 5-minute break. Sorry. Yeah,